Phone, please. This sound is being recorded. How can we help you?
Come on.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, I drove to the police department here on Pershing, but you guys are closed. I need to bring someone into the police department. Can you tell me where the closest one I can come into?
What are you trying to accomplish by bringing them to the station?
I have a 22-year-old person that has grand theft sitting in my auto with me.
So the 22-year-old person stole something?
Yes.
Is this a relative?
Yes.
Where did they steal it from?
My car and also money.
Okay, is this your son?
Daughter.
Okay, so your daughter stole money from your car?
No, my car was stolen. We retrieved it today. We found out where it was at. We retrieved it. I've got that, and I've got affidavit for my banking account. I want to bring her in.
Now, notice, this is the very first 911 call. Notice, this is what I was saying with like the control and the family dynamics, right? Notice, this 911 call is not about Caylee. It's not about, I've got a missing granddaughter, blah, blah. What does she do? She calls and she says, I've got a 22-year-old adult here who's committed grand theft auto and stolen money from my bank account. It's like just trying to get her in trouble for things that aren't even true, right? Wild to me.
Because my next thing will be down the child thing, and we'll have a court order to get her. If that's what you want to play, we'll do it. And you'll never. Well, then
oh my God. Did you hear her say to Casey, if that's the way you want to play? She says the next thing is we'll have a court order if that's how you want to play. Wow.
Did you immediately call the police from your home so that you could have the Orange County Sheriff's Office respond to you at that location?
No, because we're talking to Lee. He thought that if we sat down together and she was, relaxed in the home, that maybe we could get some answers. So he wanted to try to talk to her. So that's what happened. Casey kept insisting that it was Caylee would probably already be asleep by that time and she didn't want to disturb her, that we could go the next day. And I didn't care if we were up all night, if it disrupted Caylee's sleep, that I would stay up all night and not go to work the next day if it became an issue that Caylee wasn't able to sleep and someone wasn't going to get any sleep. I volunteered to be the one. I didn't care. I wanted to see Caylee.
All right. Did she tell you that she would take you to her at this point?
No, she continued to insist that it was not a good idea to get her that night. And I was getting more irritated and was not happy with that answer, that I threatened again to call the police.
Okay, what did the person do that you need arrested?
My daughter.
For what?
For stealing an auto and stealing money.
911, what's your emergency?
I called a little bit ago. The deputy sheriff said I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Casey? Mom. Hey, sweetie. Well, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far.
You don't know what my involvement is and stuff?
Casey.
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't fucking know where she's at. Are you kidding me? They've already said they're going to pin this on me if they don't find Caylee. They've already said that.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Anthony.
Hello.
Mrs. Anthony, is it fair to say you and Casey are very much alike?
In many ways, yes.
Okay. In fact, is that not what you hear quite often, that you are exactly alike?
In most ways, yes.
There came a time where you found out that Jesse Grun was not Caylee's father. Did you not?
Yes.
And subsequent to that, Who did you think Caylee's father was?
She gave me a name of Eric Baker.
And did you ever meet anyone by the name of Eric Baker?
No, sir, I have not.
What did Caylee tell you about this Eric Baker?
That he was 2 years younger than her, and he was an old friend, and she had seen him about the time that she started seeing Jesse. He was in town and upset about a girlfriend or such, and then I guess they got together. It was one night, and Eric lived out of state and was back in a relationship with his girlfriend that he was having difficulty with when Caylee said they got together.
Did there come a time where meeting Eric Baker was not possible?
Yes.
And how did that all come about?
It was about a week or two after Caylee's second birthday that Caylee called me at my work, and she was hysterical on the phone. And she told me that Caylee's father was involved in a car accident. Do you want me to tell you how I learned about him? Or?
Sure.
Caylee was engaged to Jesse, and it was sometime around Valentine's Day of 2006. And he had a little boy, and she said that she thought he was a nice young man, and he had befriended her, and she was confiding in him about her relationship with Jesse. Towards the fall or winter of 2006, that when Caylee's phone was on, I guess was just sitting there, the picture was of Zachary and Jeff, and she had him listed as boyfriend in her phone.
Have you since come to find out that Jeffrey Hopkins does not exist?
I never knew for sure if he did or not, so if you're telling me that he doesn't exist now, then...
You had, that you testified under direct, a girls' day at the mall with Jeffrey's mother?
We were supposed to meet up with Jeffrey's mom and Zachary for Christmas pictures with Santa Claus. Christmas of 2007.
And what was Jeffrey's mother's name?
Jules.
Jules.
And
I mean, this stuff is wild, right?
It turned out that Jules had cancer?
Caylee told me that those last few weeks in July of 2008 that Jules had cancer.
And it turns out that Zach's mother was also deceased.
Yes.
And both of these toddlers' parents, other parents, were deceased.
Yes.
So Jeffrey Hopkins was a widower.
My understanding is that Jeff took custody of Zachary when he was 2, that Zachary's mother, previous to that, was a single mom, and Jeff had no idea that he was a father, and then found out when his old girlfriend passed away that he actually was a father.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is Zachary's mother was deceased. Yes?
Yes.
And Caylee's father was deceased.
Yes.
And Caylee wanted to move in with Jeffrey Hopkins and the 2 children together.
At some point, I believe that that's Caylee's wishes.
And that's what Caylee had dreamed of.
That's what Caylee, told me that was what she would like to do someday.
Were there ever any plans set in place to make this family happen?
There were lots of plans that we were supposed to get together with him and meet him and his family, and that never happened.
Did it ever occur to you, Cindy, that these people weren't real?
Yes.
No, sir.
And this was long before June 16, 2008, wasn't it?
Correct.
And you had heard these stories of these imaginary people for quite some time.
I did not know they were imaginary people.
I know that, but you had heard these for quite some time.
Yes.
Juliette Lewis, who is she?
I was told she was a coworker of Casey's.
Now we're going to get into a whole other person, imaginary friend's life story.
Through not only Universal Studios, but also someone she worked with at Hard Rock Cafe.
And did you ever speak to Juliette Lewis?
No, I did not.
Do you have any evidence or any knowledge as to whether Juliette Lewis ever existed?
The only thing I remember, Caylee, when I'd ask her about Juliette's daughter, Anabelle,
Here we go.
Caylee would repeat the name Anabelle like it was familiar to her. So.
Insane.
And how would Caylee mention Anabelle?
Insane.
If I would say to Caylee that day before I go to work or whatever, was if I knew that Casey was going to see Juliette and Caylee might see Anabelle, because sometimes Zanny was supposed to have watched Anabelle for Juliette as well, I would say, "You're going to play with Anabelle today," and her eyes would light up and she would say, "Anabelle."
She would just repeat the name.
Yes.
How old was Anabelle?
I mean, but I don't know, you guys, Caylee was 2.5 years old, or younger even, because again, Anabelle existed before Caylee went missing. I don't know, could a 2-year-old say the word Anabelle? I don't know.
The same age as Caylee.
Did you ever see any photographs of Anabelle?
No, sir, I did not.
Who is Raquel Farrell?
Another
I
one.
believe Raquel Farrell to be Zanny's roommate.
Zanny's roommate.
And what does she look like?
This is what I'm saying, y'all. Zanny's roommate. And all these people. Can you imagine? So again, years before Caylee goes missing, Casey's going around chit-chatting, shooting the shit, whatever, with her family, and chatting about Zanny's roommate, Raquel Farrell. Like, first and last name. Where did she come up with these crazy names? Anabelle? Raquel Farrell? I mean, it blows my mind. Just talks about them until, like, they're all household names with her family. It's so insane.
I've never seen Raquel.
Did you ever speak to Raquel Farrell?
No.
Did you ever see a photograph of Raquel Farrell?
No.
Do you have any evidence that Raquel Farrell ever existed?
No.
Now, I'd like to talk about Zanny the Nanny.
Yes, let's do it.
Did you ever see a photograph of Zanny the Nanny?
No.
Did you ever speak to Zanny the Nanny?
No.
When was the first time you heard of Zanny the Nanny?
I wondered the same thing.
The same time I heard about Jeffrey Hopkins, around Valentine's Day of 2006.
Incredible.
This was 2 years, over
I can't.
2 years and basically 2.5 years before June 16, 2008.
Yes, sir.
And what did Casey tell you about Zanny the Nanny?
She said that that was Jeff's girlfriend and that they lived in the same apartment complex. And Jeff pretty much offered Zanny up as a extra person if Casey ever needed a babysitter, because at that time it was.
That's how she meets Zanny. Zanny is Jeff's girlfriend. So that's how you can connect the existence of these imaginary friends are linked, right? Before Casey's even got an imaginary relationship with this imaginary person, she's talking about this imaginary person's imaginary relationship with another imaginary person.
And you had no idea that Zanny was not a real person?
No, I did not.
And she described to you that Zanny looked like what?
Over the course of the 2 years, Zanny had gotten her hair cut several times, but when I first heard about her, she had
This is insane.
long black hair and was very attractive.
Did she say she was a perfect 10?
That came up later. I didn't hear that prior, right in the beginning. I heard that she just was a beautiful person on the inside as well as the outside.
God,
Had a great smile.
I just.
Was
The thing about, y'all, with the haircuts, like, this is my point. What purpose did this serve Casey years before her daughter's missing? You know, oh, hi, honey, how was your day? Right? I'm saying as if Cindy was asking Casey, right? And Casey's like, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow just starts talking about Zanny. Oh, Zanny got her hair cut. Remember how I told you it was long before? Well, she just got it cut short. It really suits her. She looks great. I mean, incredible.
Zanny Hispanic?
I don't think the conversation ever came up. There was one occasion where I was actually kind of concerned that Caylee had some scratches on her legs, and I thought that they looked like cat or dog scratches. And I asked her what had happened to her, and she said a doggy had scratched her. So I asked Casey about it, and she said that Zanny had gotten a new puppy, and the puppy had scratched Caylee.
What was the puppy's name?
I don't recall.
Zanny's new puppy.
Most of the time, there was weeks at a time where Caylee wouldn't stay with anybody other than myself. Zanny was someone that filled in. If Casey had to work while I was at work or George was unavailable. Otherwise, Casey, most of the time, Casey dropped Caylee off at my work or would meet me in the parking lot, and then I would have Caylee in the evenings.
Did Casey ever describe, prior to June and July of 2008, did Casey ever describe any problems that Zanny the Nanny was having in her life, in her personal life?
Just that period of time. Well, there were different times during those 2 years where Zanny had to move. She talked to me about Zanny's mom being ill and different things like that. And Zanny had another part-time job and she just babysat. And I guess when her and Jeffrey broke up, Zanny got a job as a bartender to fill in financially from not being able, making money.
This shit's incredible,
from,
right? Again,
there's
no need for her to even be saying all this stuff. That's why it's so weird. It's like a compulsion, right? Why is she talking about Zanny's new job? It's not even relevant to anything. It's like, it's just crazy.
Watching Zachary. So, there was different, she would talk to me about Zanny's life like she was one of her friends, and that's what she considered her, and that's what I considered her to be, is a friend of Casey's at that point.
And did Zanny's mother have cancer too?
No, sir. She had heart issues.
Heart issues?
Yes, sir.
And what was her name?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Gloria.
Gloria, here we go.
Who is Rosa?
I have no idea.
Zanny had a sister, did she not?
Yes.
And what was Zanny's sister's name?
Samantha.
And was she older or younger than Zanny?
I believe she was older.
Was Samantha also a nanny?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm sorry. How does Samantha fit in, though, with family names, right? Because I think we already heard testimony, and we're going to hear more about Zanny's heritage. She's like half Puerto Rican. I don't know. Anyway, Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, right? Her mother's name is Gloria. So you have Zenaida, you have Gloria, and then Samantha? Y'all.
Live with Juliette and Raquel and Zanny together?
Juliette did not live with Zanny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And as far as I know, her sister was either married or lived on her own with her children.
Oh, wait. Are we going to talk about Samantha's children next? I can't.
Ever see a photograph of Gloria, Zanny's mother?
No, sir.
Did you ever speak to Gloria to wish her well on her heart condition?
No, sir.
Right. Y'all.
Do you have any knowledge?
Oh my God.
Or did you have any knowledge that Gloria was an imaginary person?
No, sir.
I'll just sum this up, Miss Anthony. Do you have any information that you've received over the last 3 years or since these people ever were mentioned that they are anything but imaginary people?
I just found out that they are imaginary people.
And you testified under direct examination that Up until about 6 weeks ago, you were looking for Zanny The Nanny.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And that was for 2.5 years? You were looking for Zanny The Nanny?
I was looking for Zanny ever since I found out that Caylee was missing.
Did you ever believe that Caylee was flown by a private jet to Puerto Rico?
Sustained.
Mrs. Anthony, do you believe Caylee's alive?
Wow.
I'm going to object to the relevance of this.
Sustained.
Have you ever testified that Casey would get out quite easily?
Casey could, yes.
I'm sorry, and Caylee could.
I may have.
Okay. And that's what led you to believe that Caylee could have drowned in the pool, did it not?
I don't know if I put those in the same sequence.
Within 24 hours of law enforcement getting called, Miss Anthony, did you not tell Detective Melich about the ladder incident?
I'm not sure what ladder incident you're talking about.
About finding the ladder down attached to the pool on June 17th?
The facts, not in evidence.
Overruled.
Thank God.
I know at some point the detectives that the ladder, I found the ladder on the pole and the gate open.
And that was on June
And the gate open.
17th, was it not?
I believe it was the 16th. Could have been the 17th, but I feel like it was the 16th.
16th, you came home from work and you saw the ladder there.
And I came home from work and let the dogs outside. And when I went outside with the dogs, I noticed that the ladder was on the pole. And when I walked to get the ladder off the pole, I noticed that the side gate was open.
And that alarmed you?
Yes, because the dogs were in the backyard and I didn't want them running into the street, and we never left the gate open.
And this alarmed you so much that the next day when you went to work, you actually told coworkers?
Yes, sir.
I know you testified that you took the ladder down after you were done.
Yes, I recall taking the ladder down.
Are you 100% certain of that?
There's the big question.
As certain as I can be. I'm not sure if anybody's ever 100% certain of anything, but I do recall taking the ladder down. So as much as I can remember from the events, yes, I took the ladder down.
Have you sold photographs of your daughter and your granddaughter for $20,000 to CBS in this case?
My old attorney, Brad Conway, set that up so that he could get paid.
And you paid him the entire $20,000?
No, a portion of that.
How much of that did you keep?
I had to pay bills with that. He got $6,000.
He got $6,000?
Yes, sir.
That gate that you have on the side of your house can only be opened from the inside, correct?
If it's locked, yes.
Were you in the habit of keeping it locked?
For the most part, unless we were using it frequently. Like if we were, working in the front yard, we wouldn't lock it every time we went out front. But yes, if we were gone, we usually locked the gate.
Do you recall Casey's graduation?
Yes.
And you had a party planned and a big celebration for her high school graduation.
Yes.
You invited people?
Yes.
And what happened on Casey's graduation day?
Got a word from her guidance counselor that she was shy 1/2 credit of her necessary credit. She had actually more credits than she needed to graduate, but she was missing a quarter makeup English that we thought she had finished. She was just not allowed to walk for graduation, so we carried on with the party.
You had previously testified that there were times that the defendant had made plans with you only to cancel them, correct?
Correct.
And why did she cancel those plans?
Because her mom wasn't watching Caylee.
The defendant tell you anything about her relationship with her mother during this time period?
It was strained. It was hard. Her mom was being continually agitated with her.
Did she tell you why her mother was continually agitated with her?
I remember there was a time when she told me that her mom had told her that she was an unfit mother. She was extremely upset about that.
And after those conversations ended, what would she say, or did she say anything about the relationship with her mom?
Just that her mom was crazy and she was just really frustrated and that she needed space and she didn't understand why she couldn't understand that.
It seems like Casey was trying to get out of there, right? But I think that part of the challenge was being a single mom and not having a job. She was reliant upon having someone to watch Caylee, right? Like if she moved out, I'm just thinking hypothetically, right? Like so in other words, it's like she wants to get away from her mom, but at the same time, she needs her mom to watch Caylee, I think is part of it.
Prior to receiving this text message, had you had various or phone conversations with the defendant regarding the smell in the car?
Yes.
Over what span of days?
She remarked that there was a really bad smell coming out of her car and she didn't know what it was. And then there was another phone call where she said it had gotten worse and she thought maybe her dad had run over something when he had borrowed the car.
What did she tell you about the problem that she was having with her mom?
There weren't a lot of specifics. Most of them had to do with Caylee. And
what do you recall the problems or the issue being about Caylee?
In that time period, it was that Cindy wanted to see Caylee and Casey was keeping her away because there was stuff going on at home. And she was trying to keep them out of that situation.
During this time period in June, when you were speaking with her, did she inform you that she was keeping Caylee from her mom?
Yes.
Why was she keeping Caylee from her mom?
There was, George and Cindy were having problems at home and she wanted to keep Caylee out of the drama.
Did she tell you what the problems that George and Cindy were having at home?
She told me they were considering divorce.
Did she tell you why divorce was a consideration?
That her dad had cheated on her mom.
Explain again, or explain what that potential pending divorce had to do with Caylee.
It was the not happiness at home that Casey wanted to keep her from.
Now, when she came out, where was Cindy Anthony in relation to the door?
Not too terribly far away. The landing was only 12 to 15 feet long anyway. Long and far enough out of eyesight so she would actually come out, but close enough where she could get there fast.
How would you describe Mrs. Anthony's demeanor when you got to the apartment?
Very confrontational.
Angry?
Yeah.
So when the defendant comes out of the apartment, what is the first thing you see or hear?
A massive explosion of mother and daughter. And just
an interesting description.
I was a little scared and really kind of tried to close myself off as much. I was caught in the middle of it for a while and then managed to escape. But a lot of confrontation and defense.
Did you eventually have a phone conversation with your sister this night?
Yes, I had numerous phone conversations with her that night, yes.
Let's talk about when you finally were able to have a conversation with her, did you ask her where she was?
Yes, at one time I specifically asked where she was.
And what did she tell you?
She told me she was in Jacksonville.
When she told you she was in Jacksonville, what was your response?
I knew it was a lie.
Okay.
So I just immediately kept questioning her, well, what are you doing in Jacksonville? Where are you in Jacksonville? Things like that.
What'd she say?
Why wouldn't you just say, I know you're lying? Oh my God. See, this family, all of them. There's a weird culture of lying and sneaking and tricking and manipulating. It's just weird, man.
Do you recall any comments about that the defendant made about a cycle or a routine?
Yes, I do. It was something along the lines of this is what she's been, used to, and I don't want to, change that. I interpreted that as her, sleeping routine throughout the, for I guess some time leading up to that point.
Did that make any sense to you?
maybe from a routine standpoint, but not from I should appease my mother and get my child back. I would think that should be the train of thought. But she told me that my mother had numerous times thrown it in her face, in my sister's face, that Casey was an unfit mother for Caylee, and that Casey says, maybe I am.
It's like the same strategy they tell you with a bully, right? If someone's a bully and they're like teasing you about whatever, what do you do to get them to stop? You don't disagree, you agree. You say, yep, you're right.
And I went on to say that my mother had also referenced Caylee as being a mistake, but a great mistake, or the best mistake that Casey's ever made.
And then that also makes sense too, right? Because then Casey agrees to get her to stop bullying, right? So then what does she do? She steps it up, because it's like, oh, well, that didn't get the reaction out of her daughter she wanted. So then she has to throw in there, Caylee's a mistake, but the best mistake. I mean, it's really messed up stuff.
What's not making sense to you?
Why couldn't we or anybody just go get Caylee and bring her home? There's no reason to fight with, mom at this point.
There it is. There's no reason to fight with mom at this point. That's the thing, right? That's the mom keeping the control, right? Do what the mom wants, so that she'll stop fighting with you. I mean, it sounds like an emotionally abusive family relationship. Do what I want, or I'll keep punishing you until you do what I want. That's what it is. It could have been like the perfect storm too. Just thinking about this weird ass family dynamic. If there was, say, an accident, right, like drowning in the pool, and meanwhile, George, like I said, George and Cindy, they're going through they're fighting, they're maybe going to get divorced. They had different work schedules. I think there was very little communication between the two of them. So let's just say that there's the accident, right? And George has a motivation to throw Casey under the bus in a way. This is just hypothetically, right? Speculation. George has motivation to throw Casey under the bus because, he doesn't want to get in trouble for murder, right? We see this all the time in cases where there's some sort of accident and then they try to cover it up, right? So if it was something along those lines, right, then he would have motivation potentially to throw Casey under the bus to protect himself. And then you could have Cindy Anthony, where, this is a completely different situation where Cindy doesn't know that anything's happened to Caylee at this juncture, right? Is just now learning she's been missing, but doesn't know she's dead, right? But upon learning she's missing, or even prior to that, by just not being allowed to see her, is just so mad at Casey, right? At this juncture, that she's kind of trying to throw Casey under the bus by getting her in trouble with law enforcement to teach her a lesson, or again, like out of spite or resentment, but not really knowing at that point that there is actually something that there is actually a death, right, involved. But you can think about how they could have, with all the miscommunication and all the lying and all the craziness, and then you've got the divorce between the two, or not divorce, potential divorce, and the just lack of communication / all that. You could see how completely separate, but at the same time, like happening at the same time, George and Cindy could have their completely own different reasons for wanting to throw Casey under the bus, which could have resulted in the perfect storm, Anyway, I was just thinking about that. So.
Your mother's focus, based on your observation, was more, instead of trying to fix the situation, how could you not tell us? Why did you let so much time run? Is that correct? In other words, her focus, she was dwelling on, I can't believe we're in this situation, versus where is she? How do we find Caylee?
That's accurate. Yes.
And see that, Matt, that speaks to like what I was saying before, which is her motivation was more about punishing Casey, making her feel guilty, versus actually finding a solution, which is what you would do if you think something's wrong, right?
And your mother's behavior and comments towards Casey, there were periods of time in which it appeared to you that Casey didn't have a chance to respond.
Sure. Yeah.
In your family, it's your father who details or cleans the cars inside out and out, isn't it? That's his role.
Typically, yes.
And he would do that, if not every weekend, every other weekend.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Any questions about what was raised in that redirect? All right, Mr. Anthony, you excused, subject to recall.
Thank you.